Put your red shirt on and a brown coat too. Everybody's joining the crew. We got just one drink that we rule them all. Hope people remember your towel. Get your Ulu fingers and your Middle Earth guns. A sonic screwdriver or a sword +1. Use Valerian steel if it will get you to come. To the pit tank. To the pit tank. The Rocky Mountain pit tank.
Hi, I'm Guy.
You're sort of Guy. Hi, I'm Troy.
Hi, I'm Alex.
Geek, and
He's totally frozen. Size podcast. I think you forgot to pay your cable bill or your internet bill.
So I like the fact that Troy posted the thing that I was talking about is backwards.
We're gonna give you a minute to see if your internet catches up with us. Hey, Brent, I bet you've got better internet than Guy.
Probably not.
Snap.
We're gonna kick Guy out and bring you in.
Double snap.
Your internet must be this high to join the podcast.
How's my fan moving?
Still bad.
Yep. Brent's like, yep, okay, I'm in. Put me in, coach.
Get off the bench.
You want to come up here? No? You're staring at me? Is it better or worse?
This is like marginally better.
Relatively better.
Yes, compared to before.
I'm so glad I pay a lot of money for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. Well, so did you get the link that I sent in the private chat just before we started?
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. I'm saddened that the thing that I thought was going one direction is going the other direction.
Yeah, I looked it up because I hadn't heard anything about it, and when I was looking, I was like, wait a minute, this is the opposite of what Guy was saying.
Yeah.
So where did you get your information, and what information did you think that was? And we'll bring our audience up. It looks like your internet's better now.
Oh, good. My internet's better now. So yeah, I mean, I was cruising around Reddit this morning, and obviously I read
hot
because the way it's written is that the Japan courts rule same-sex marriage ban is not unconstitutional, which is not an un. And so what I obviously read was Japan court rules same-sex marriage ban is unconstitutional, or is not constitutional, and did not read that they had double negative it and said not unconstitutional. So, in other words, Japan has ruled that you can ban same-sex marriage.
Boo.
That is not against the Constitution. So, that was a setback for this, where I thought it was a set forward. So, that's one of those things where... That was an interesting discussion I had with my dad once, because he was like, his whole thing was, what are you doing, you pest? Weirdo, stop doing that. He was doing why don't they just call it civil unions and get it over with and be fine, and just, married people can get married, and, civil union people can get civil unions, and then we don't have to worry about it. And of course, what Dad didn't know, and it's interesting because once I explained it to him, he changed his tune fast, was that married people are by state. There's a legal change between married people.
Like here in the States.
Huh?
Like here in the States.
Well, that's what I mean. It's a change of state in the government.
Oh, so your dad was referring to America, not Japan.
No, what I meant was when I told Dad, when you get married, the United States government sees you and your partner as a team.
Right.
Whereas if you get a civil union, the United States government
I'm with you on that. I thought because
I said state in the state-like government.
Yes. Where I'm confused is I thought you and your dad were having a conversation about marriage in Japan. But
No.
but no, okay.
No, no, no.
Okay. We're on board.
So I'm coming back to the Japan part on this one.
Okay. Because
You
I was
know,
about to
so-
ask you, how does it compare? Because it is a big deal here in the States if you're married or not, because of all the things that happen and that the advantages you get, like the HIPAA stuff and such. I was wondering, what are the similarities to that in Japan?
So yeah, of course there are. I mean, marriage is not a religious institution in Japan at all. So they don't even have that argument. Here, at least, the argument is the only reason we don't want gay people to get married is because Christians hate gay people, and therefore, ergo, marriage is a Christian thing. Ergo, that's the conflict. Japan doesn't even have that, so they're just out there whistling in the dark for no reason whatsoever. They just decided to. The thing about Japan is their way of dodging culturally is interesting and different as far as how it kind of goes, because they can do things culturally and say, oh yes, this is very important, vote no. You know what I mean? Like, they do that a lot. So everybody is giving lip service back and forth, and everybody votes no because it's uncomfortable and makes them feel squiggy. And since they're not actually handling the problems and nobody's confronting them and telling them, you can't just tell somebody they can't do something because it makes you feel squiggy, then everybody just kind of goes with it. And that's part of the problem.
If I would have known you were going to say that, I would have said this was a squiggy sized podcast.
It's a squiggy sized podcast.
But not a Lenny sized podcast.
No, just squiggy.
All right.
I feel like everybody from there is gone except for Shirley at this point in time. Anyway,
I don't keep up with celebrity deaths.
Yeah,
No,
back to celebrity deaths.
Only the ones I kill. So the Japan, though, not having been there, where all my information is that they're super steep in tradition and cultural aspects, and
right. Traditionally, they have not permitted the same gender to marry the same gender. Traditionally. So that's part of this is
not evolving with the times.
Right. And so what's happening is you have your traditionalists who are like, but if we do that, you're going to end up with having to figure out how to change all of our wedding stuff. That's their excuses they're using, because weddings are very complicated, intentionally complicated. Like, our weddings are not complicated compared to their weddings. How complicated our weddings get is nothing compared to how complicated. You know what I mean? Like, they level up their weddings. There's like 3 different outfits you wear. And everybody changes. The bride, the groom, everybody changes clothes. You have your traditional Japanese wedding. Then you switch to the American style wedding where you have the classic bride and groom dress. And then you switch to the after party where everybody's just dressed really nicely, but it's a completely, and it's like this elaborate procedure. And everybody feels compelled to go through this. And the culture is set up where everybody brings like $300 to the wedding. If you're invited to the wedding, you're expected to bring $300 so that everybody pays for all of this big extravaganza. And it's one of those, being invited to a wedding is a commitment and you are expected to do it. And you know what I mean? Like, there's all this stuff, but it's a very elaborate procedure. And I think a lot of what's going on is it would change that tradition. And really what I think is happening is people find it gross, and therefore they can pretend that it doesn't happen and whatever. I have always wondered what makes people decide homosexuality is a bad idea if they're not involved in it.
I've put a lot of thought into it, and I feel like it originated from the mindset of money, at least in some aspects. And it's not a valid thing. It breaks apart, but many things like religion came about from control with religion and the governments working together to get money. And since we brought about, of course, separation of state and religion, which right there should put an end to any argument about marriage being with who, because it's not religious if you're given state rights to the marriage.
Right.
But I think the concept of we need workers to produce for the government, so we need the proper two genders to produce more little workers for us. So we are constantly, the ones that are dying are replacing the ones to replace their work. So we always have gears in the machine churning. And
which would be a logical extension. I mean, if you think about it, closeted gay people are forced to have children so that they can pretend that they're normal.
Well,
And
marriage
so that works.
traditionally has nothing to do with anything except property,
the dowry.
and succession. It's a contract about power and property and money.
Right.
Which the succession part obviously would mean also making more offspring for it.
Yeah.
So, but it's
as society has
Or it
changed,
goes all to the church, whatever.
yeah, exactly. Which
but as society has evolved, of course, we no longer have all of those things that you're talking about. There's no more dowry and things like that. So we've got to come up with other assemblies. Now it's healthcare, and now it's, there are other aspects where getting married is important and binds you.
Mm-hmm. And really, it's one of those things that I think if a person lacks imagination and can't visualize themselves if they're not in the situation that is being repressed, can you imagine enough that what if your side was the side being repressed? Because then hopefully that would create empathy in your brain and go and realize, oh, we should all be equal. But it's like talking to people in my family who just don't get it. They can't even conceive the idea of what it's like to be homosexual, or
Right.
the idea of like, what if homosexuality was the norm? I'm using stupid words because that's what society uses, and the heterosexual was the ones that were being repressed and having to go through all that crap, and they can't even visualize a world like that. So the empathy is just gone.
Yeah, well, and part of it, of course, is the misunderstandings, the miscomprehensions. You're only homosexual because you just want to screw around with people, and you're not really just joining the real world. And
how'd you find that out about me? No, just kidding.
Right, exactly. But I mean, like the concepts therein, I find that to be difficult to argue with because, I mean, a buddy of mine who is in a marriage with another man had a great argument, counter argument, and that is, even if it is, what business is that? I mean, like, because that's an excellent counter argument. Why am I? Who are you to judge me for being a Trekkie? That's a choice. I chose to do it. You know what I mean? Like, but you can't judge me for it. Yeah. And that's, I mean, and actually, getting to kind of PC language, that's also the same thing. I feel like that's what PC language has always been, which is we've got to stop judging people for things that aren't normal. You can't start attacking people, insulting people.
Yeah. Did you really choose Star Trek? Because I don't think you get to choose love. I think it's just there. I don't think you could choose Star not Trek to like Star Trek.
Me.
Right.
Yeah.
Love just hits you.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's the thing. It's like that's kind of the concept, which is, you can argue all day long that I'm a Trekkie by choice, and your argument, which I love, is notwithstanding for the sake of this discussion.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, it's still not your place to judge me for it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like that's still not appropriate. So even if you do like women, but secretly, but just want to screw around with guys to just because it seems like a thing, that's still your choice. There's no place for us to decide that.
Yeah. Legal consenting adults, go for it.
Yeah, I mean,
you have my blessing.
You're right. But there's also no place for the government to say that you can't choose your partner. I mean, I can understand some restrictions. You cannot choose your horse to be your partner. You cannot choose your 5-year-old child to be your partner. Those are acceptable. But any
Some of the southern states are kind of pushing that last one there, though.
Yeah, right. Any creature with agency should be able to choose and select that. I feel like.
Whew. Not we scraped the geek aspect by going into Star Trek.
Hey, I made it there.
So you still got friends and people in Japan, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're ground zero for this.
Yeah. Although all the people that I know were heterosexual people that were over there.
That you know,
anybody who was homosexual at the time that I was there returned to their home country because it was better. So I mean, like at the time there was no delusion of we're going to stick around here, and I have no earthly idea if any of the Japanese people I know are homosexual, because that was not a topic of discussion we'd had. You know, the only people you can talk to about that are Westerners, because it's taboo. So we weren't having that discussion at all with the Japanese. Even as well as I knew some of those Japanese, we never had that discussion. So
that didn't work.
A thing. So anyway,
I'm
leaving holes in case you guys want to talk about something.
I don't know enough about I don't know how it is in Germany, even though I was there, because I didn't pay any attention to those kinds of laws. I'm trying to look it up real quick. Been legal since the 2017 in Germany.
Yeah.
So not that long ago.
No, it's amazing how homosexuality specifically, and as Gen Xers, all of us are pretty okay with homosexuality now, because that was the fight in our era, right? And so a good portion of Gen X is already kind of not resigned is not the right word, but accepting of it. Whereas the boomer generation seem to still be having struggles with it. And of course, all the younger generations, millennials and Gen Z, seem to be doing just fine with it. And they're actually pushing a different direction. We get into transgender and non-binary and things like that. But it is interesting how homosexuality has been around forever. It's always been here. I mean, this isn't a new thing. It's not something that was invented recently. There are records that go back to the beginning of record keeping, but it is routinely outlawed. It is routinely crushed. It is routinely pushed down, and I find that interesting. Like, what makes it a threat?
It's easy to blame a small minority out-group for problems.
Also true.
And therefore you use them as an excuse and push down on them.
Also true. That's a good point. That's a valid point. Which brings us to, it's also Juneteenth.
Yeah, and anytime you look at any kind of laws that we look as backwards. What do you mean women didn't have the vote in America till 19 what? It's there will come a time when the people who are pushing for at least I hope so, somewhat soon, that the people will look at us in 100 years and go, God, how backward they were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's true. It's a valid point. Although it is interesting.
And the Athenians, all those Greeks.
Yep. Which also, Athenians had direct democracy, just saying.
Mm-hmm. Spartans had kings.
Yes. So, but one other thing, you had just mentioned that you said it was a minority group. Women aren't a minority. I find that one also intriguing. Like, consistently.
Well, when it comes to the modern era, I don't know when the female population outnumbered the male population, but even so, by then it was like, who has the power?
Yeah, I always thought. Well, it doesn't. I don't know whether that was the case or not the case, but I mean, there's a 50-50 chance of us having a male or a female child. So,
It's not
where
50-50.
as I guess what I'm trying to say is,
Unless there's eugenics involved, it's random.
Yeah, no,
yes.
I mean,
Whereas,
maybe the studies I've read have been debunked, but I've read about like if there are larger stressors on a community, then more females are born in order to be able to have more children to
I
keep the
would,
community going.
and not wanting to dismiss that, I guess what I'm trying to say is homosexuality seems to occur in a small portion of the people born. Women seem to occur in at least half of the people born. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you're trying to compare, I can see how homosexuality would be repressed or pushed down because it's a small population, as you had said. But women keep getting repressed and pushed down too, and they aren't a small population. They are 50% of the population, give or take 5% in either direction because of what's going on. I mean, you never get to the point where only 10% of the population is women. There's never been that in history. So, but it does seem like our marginals tend to be 10%, right around 10% tend to be left-handed, 10% tend to be, you know, have body dysphoria. 10%, you know what I mean? It seems to be about a 10%, give or take, and it's not always 10%. It is, 11% here or 9% there or 14% over there. But I find it interesting that those are the ones that we seem to pick on, which is, coming back to what I was saying, fits what you were saying, Alex, your comment, which was the minorities. But then the women are an outlier on that one. And I believe, personally, have a theory that it has something to do with the way that women in hunter-gatherer societies were more receptive and men were more aggressive, and possibly any of the male dominated patriarchal societies kept crushing the matriarchal societies by the nature of the way that they fought. Because the ones that were always outliers are the ones like the Amazonians, and which came up in time as women who finally pretty much just had it with all that shit and they were done. And you could tell because it's always the group of women who were always just done. They were over it. And those were the ones that were much more deadly. So I wondered if there's some kind of, mechanic that runs in our cultures that seems to repeat in the same pattern.
Yeah, this is, I mean, my own spitballing thoughts on it are women get pregnant and it's hard to fight
When you're pregnant, that makes total sense. That's also true.
But I've not done a lot of research on this.
No, but that's also a logical. I mean, you and I are both, well, all three of us, we're all three very military oriented, military-esque. We're martial-esque. I guess I shouldn't say military, but martial.
Bars! Exulte!
But, I mean, we think militaresquely. We're martial artists. All three of us are. So I think that's probably the most logical thing. It's women have a weak point, which is taking care of the next child. And if you damage a woman while she's pregnant, it is pretty much almost always, as in pre-modern medical times, almost always fatal. It would either cause sepsis, or a miscarriage could cause sepsis, or, you know what I mean? It wouldn't take an awful lot to take out a pregnant woman in that particular aspect. So martially, I can see what you're saying, and that's logical.
Yeah, man. So Brent
Your
says
best warriors.
people. So Brent's saying that left-handed people, those sinister left-handers.
Yeah, those left-handers.
Well, in my totally unscientific quick skim over Google, I found two different sources saying that it's 51% boys and 49% girls but that's related to mainly males having the slightest ever higher success rate of not dying during the period of birth, up
Pregnancy.
to the point of becoming a baby. Yeah,
Right. I'm
um,
becoming a baby.
becoming a baby. Yeah, just that's going to trigger a lot of people that don't watch the show.
A cluster of cells ain't a baby. There, I said it. Fight me.
That's right.
So
I'm not fighting you.
I got your back.
Yeah.
But yeah, as I was trying to find, because I was curious, because I hadn't heard that, but it made sense about the different sways of gender based off of situations going on with the population.
Well, currently, we have bias towards women because women live an average of 10 years longer than men.
They're not as stupid.
Yeah. Well, and yeah, I mean, like you and I have been talking about medical care and taking care of ourselves and stuff like that. And, just culturally. But the bias tends to be towards women just simply because they live longer by 10 years. So your population will always be women heavier.
Yeah, you and I are. I'm ex driving instructor, but you're active driving instructor.
Active.
And I remember explaining to the kids, about how car insurance works. And one kid who had been brainwashed by his dad, it's like, women are worse drivers.
Yep.
And I'm like, really? Why do they pay less in insurance?
Yep.
They take less risks. They're better drivers.
Yep.
So it's
But I did find out that in the 70s they did pay more. Because that bias was in there.
Yep. The assumption.
Mm-hmm. Boy, that makes my kids mad. That riles them up. That's all right. They need to be riled up.
Yeah, the mortality rate and based off of just the generation that I've seen and my brother's generation and being from the South, possibly the whole don't go to the doctor and tough it out, as opposed to, actually listening to your body and going and getting help when it needs help, tends to be more of a guy thing of like, I'm going to tough it out. I'm not a wimp. I'm coughing up blood. That's nothing. I'll get over it. Yep. Dead. Your computer said make lunch for tomorrow. Computer, do it yourself. Of course, my Alexa over here is like, what I do?
Oddly funny.
But
the scratch.
Tis a scratch. But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting you talk about marginalized people. I mean, to a lot of degree, I think that, and this does bring us back to geeks, for at least the Gen X geeks, we get some empathy for marginalized people because we were marginalized to some degree because of what we believed, which was part of the entire PC revolution, which I noticed. I was thinking about a word I use a lot now, which is infantize, where you take somebody's statement and you make it sound stupid so that everybody
infantilize.
Yeah, is that what it's called? Infantilize?
I think it's infantilize, yeah.
Okay, infantilize. That would explain why my spell checker does not, in fact, wish to correct me on that when it just underlines it and then tells me to go jump off a cliff.
I'm here to help.
But infantilize, where you take something like, Alex feels very strongly about, pineapple pizza. And so I say, yeah, but, pineapple is just full of acid. And so obviously he just likes acid because he just, you know what I mean? Like you make it sound stupid.
Oh, look,
like, it doesn't matter what Alex likes. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then you just make it sound dumb.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a lot of that whenever we talk about any argument coming around. All they ever want on the left is just, to have gay people in charge. And you're like, that's stupid.
Sure.
All they want on the left is to have black people in charge. Why would you say that? That doesn't even make sense. But the thing is that you can say sure, but all you're going to do then is make them validate their argument. And then they're like, proof why we must now shoot every lefty. Whoa. How did you get there?
Right.
Because Alex said that it was true.
You can't have a cogent argument with crazy people.
Well, but the problem is we're at 50% crazy people.
Okay.
And that's the issue. right? If you look at it from the right, the left is all crazy, all of them, every last one. If you look at it from the left, the right is all crazy, every last one of them. And so it's becoming a problem, and it's getting worse and worse because the people in the middle are being pushed to one side or the other. And somebody is going to have a reasonable argument somewhere with these people, or we're just going to happen to do what Strange New Worlds just predicted, which is the Second World War.
That
which would be
happened in
silly.
1940.
Nope. That I mean Civil War. I didn't mean second.
Okay, I'm
I said
like,
second Civil War.
It's Star Trek. I
okay.
don't know. Maybe they did something weird.
Yeah, no, it's
Second Civil War, which is what they were talking about in Strange New Worlds. So
I think political correctness is it was, you know, it's people finally put a label to not trying to be a jerk to people, not trying to be a dick and hurt people's feelings.
Yeah.
PC. It's like, yeah, I don't call you Republican McFuckface.
right.
So I'm totally PC now.
Well,
I don't like when you say you want to rape my wife in the mouth. PC, motherfucker.
It's
right.
It's interesting how they did that. It's become the attack on that, just like there's the attack on safe space. People needed safe spaces, which was a legitimate thing, and then all of a sudden, there are certain people who would attack the concept of it, and try to make people feel bad about it by turning the word around.
Right. Well, that's what I mean by infantilizing.
Yeah.
Infantilizing? Was that what we called it? Infantilizing. So this is another one of those words where I read it but never heard it.
Is that where you turn things into babies?
You turn things into with lasers, baby lasers. I need to watch season 3 of The Boys.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I'm holding off because I'm way behind on Orville. Finally caught up on For All
Is that
Mankind.
the KFC TV show? Orville Redenbacher? Or no, that's pot porn. Right, Orville Redenbacher.
I guess so.
No,
Orville's
named after Orville Wright.
Oh, really? They're doing a Wright Brothers show?
No, it's more like a Galaxy Quest TV as a TV.
It's series. Galaxy Quest. It's Seth MacFarlane wanted to make his own Star Trek show, so he made his own Star Trek show called The Orville, and he started it with the concept of it being like Galaxy Quest, where it was sort of it wasn't the Enterprise, it was the Super Prize,
right, yeah.
But unlike Galaxy Quest,
Tim Allen is not playing Captain Kirk, but you can't trademark how Captain Kirk sits in that goddamn chair.
Right. And unlike Galaxy Quest, it was like there was no aspect of it being a TV show that people were pretending to be. It was just the science fiction thing. Yeah.
But as second season went along, he went on ahead and started toning down the comedy and cranking up the morality
social commentaries,
and social commentaries.
It's really good.
Third season, and he's serious. It's getting serious,
which is why I blame it got canceled, because it got really good, so it got canceled.
Yeah, it got good, so they're going to cancel it now.
Oh man, I hate it when it happens.
So that's the thing. But on the same token, I mean, you've got like all of those aspects. I'm catching up on all of those things. So I'm waiting on The Boys to see with you, because might as well.
Yeah, we have to wait for one of the karaoke nights, and because your wife and my wife don't like the gratuitous violence. So
as long as they don't, I hope they do something with head explodey super, because that one startles me and I hate it.
Oh, you don't like the jump scares?
I don't like the jump scares.
I guess I have to watch it first so I can earmark the jump scares.
Yeah, make sure that you've got like an idea of where all the head explodies are.
Yep.
Only if they are not obvious. I mean, like, I don't know.
The thing that Brett's referring to, I'll of course not give away anything because it's fun, but I'll say that was more extreme than I thought it was going to be, but I thought it was going to be more painful. And I'll just leave it at that. I thought it was going to involve a lot more pain and not be over so quickly. But
Season 3, episode 1, the first 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, I've kept up with it, but I wasn't keeping mental track of where the jump scares were because I don't see them as readily as you do.
Yeah, they give me anxiety. I think that's really what I've been recently thinking. I've been trying to analyze all of these stupid things, try to make it easy for people. Like I've been talking to Alex today about during the game, when we're D&Ding, I try not to make you guys have to deal with my disabilities. However, one of them is if everybody talks at the same time, I cannot hear. So whoever I'm looking at is the one I hear because I read your lips. So clearly we need to come up with as we had before, the social initiative and make scenes.
Yeah, the thing I was noticing, it's not so much if everybody's talking at once, because it's more of you're hypersensitive to everything going on, even if it's not involving you. So your focus goes over here, even though the two people talking aren't talking about anything at all going on with what's happening, but it pulls your focus away from what you're trying to pay attention to with the one person you are doing something with. And I see that's what frustrates you, because you unintentionally are like, you two are talking, I must pay some attention to you. And really they need to go on a cone of silence, because the conversation has nothing to do at all with what's happening with the conversation you're having with the person that you're dealing with. That was a lot of round way to say that, but yeah,
I feel like, and we're back to, I feel like we're saying the same thing.
We are. I think that it's not so much that you. I think you unintentionally are listening to conversations that you don't need to be, and you can't turn it off. Yeah,
it's ADD means just like autism. It means that we cannot distinguish different sounds.
Which
and so what I'll hear is 3 words from Alex, 2 words from Mariah, 1 word from Troy, 6 words from and they're all jumbled together into one sentence that means nothing.
Which makes Roll 20 slightly better in that aspect, because people can have their side conversations in text.
Yeah, well, that's what Mariah was suggesting. Was that maybe we should go back to Roll 20 when I'm GMing and just stay there for a while, because
I wonder how hard it would be to open up 2 separate rooms, so like Mariah and Alex could have a separate room open, but still hear what's happening in the main room.
Well, one of the arguments that we had, counter arguments to that, is Gail wants to be part of that discussion, and legitimately, it's an interesting part of the story. But as I was saying to Alex, if the GM doesn't hear it, it didn't happen. And that's a big problem, because those 2 characters are evolving, but as far as I know, they're still in the same position they were in the very beginning of the story, technically speaking. Although obviously I know more than that, because I have read some of the stuff on Discord, and I have heard what Alex was talking about on walks, and I have heard what Mariah was talking about here. So clearly I know more, but it is difficult to ensure that all of that gets put into the lore of the story. So I don't know.
We'll counter, we are affecting each other's characters. We are not affecting the game world.
Or any other character for that matter, just those 2 characters.
Yeah, well, and as long as you imagine that you 2 are in a room of the spaceship all by your lonesome self with the door closed and locked, we're fine. But the fact that you are with the rest of the party means the rest of the party has to have at least an opportunity to interact.
We're in the same room talking. We have been interacted with.
Yeah, I've
with others.
I've awkwardly interrupted them, as Bakht would do.
So annoying.
Yep.
So, yes, but now we're back to what I was saying at the very beginning. It's wonderful that all of you neurotypical people can communicate together like that, but this is a dysfunction I have. What I end up with is I miss all of it. And as occurred last game, during one of those everybody talking at the same time in 100 sign conversations, Troy actually did try to activate one of his characters' abilities, and I heard it not at all.
I'm in doubt that I said it out loud.
Okay.
So don't assume it was you.
Well, either way, it did make me start to go, uh-oh, we have a problem.
That's fine. We need those little flags like they have at that meat restaurant, where we just put up our little flag when we have a conversation. It like slides up the pole.
I love those.
All right. We are
sliding.
We're 12 minutes past our midpoint. We should fire that thing
We
off.
should do our branding thing. Hang
Which
on, banners.
I'm seeing here that there was actually private warning sent that. Of course, I had the commons open, not the private one open.
Okay, here we go, guys. Geek Tank is sponsored by Kieran Games, Geekway Homes, and Your Mom.
Mom.
All right.
And Kieran will be at Hexacon. And what was the other one you mentioned? A Tacticon or Genghis Khan? I get them mixed up.
Yeah, Gen Con, I think.
No, not Gen Con. That's not Colorado. But
Okay,
but he will not.
Colorado non-con.
He will not be at the Kieran Games will not be at the DCC, which turned into the other thing, and then now is another thing. It's it's in the third iteration of DC. Yeah, Fan Expo, not Denver
Will
Pop
not be
Culture
at Fan
Con.
Expo, which I don't blame him.
Mhm.
I
don't think we are.
A number of people are bailing on Fan Expo. It was difficult and unpleasant. It's expensive for not a lot of return. And that's difficult.
Mhm.
You know, like I had a couple of my buddies who were artist friends, and we couldn't even find them, and I literally had to text them to have them text me back and say, "You're literally like 5 feet from me."
Mhm.
And then I found them in a Death Star trench, you know, because grid wall on either side.
I think I was there for that.
Star trench, and they got nothing. You know, they
'Cause
paid
they-
like $200 and got nothing. They made no money.
Ouch.
Yeah. And I don't know if the contacts are still the same for getting media passes, so I'm not even sure we can get media passes to it.
No, I'm not sure I even
Want to go.
worried about it. I don't know if I want to.
Mhm.
You know?
Well, it's weird because that whole 2014, 2015, our early start into that, there was actually a fella there who worked with the convention that coordinated media stuff and got us interviews. But then after 2015, like he's gone after 2015, and then there's none of these, unless if you're one of the local news stations, they don't want to have anything to do with you, apparently.
Yeah, that's an issue that I'm worried about. I mean, that's everybody seems to be going that way. Like, it doesn't matter what convention we get to, we don't have 50,000 zillion million viewers, so yeah, whatever. We'll give you a free pass, but you can wander the halls, but we're not going to help you do anything that will make you get more viewers, you know? And I mean, for us, maybe just wandering the halls isn't so bad.
Well, we've had our good cons though. I mean, this has not been the typical case for past conventions. I don't want any previous conventions to feel that we're talking about them.
We were mourning the loss of Starfest because the Starfest team was really good about that.
Mm-hmm.
And
amazing, yeah.
And you know, Fan Expo was the first to kind of go down that road of, you know, no real interviews.
Before it was Denver Pop Culture Con, it started to go down that road. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, before then it was difficult. And I'm noticing, I guess what I'm trying to say is I'm noticing in the general milieu that is becoming the standard. Mm-hmm. The conventions are all being bought up by the big corporations, and the big corporations they don't want to risk anything weird happening to their guests, which makes total sense.
Yeah.
So what they do is, if you aren't a credentialed media outlet with, you know, all kinds of verification that you are, you know, you're legit and you've
had your shots
and had all your shots, you're not allowed to be within 100 feet of their guests ever. And that's becoming the standard,
mm-hmm.
which is going to push all of us little media outlets out.
Well, luckily, we the smaller cons we still have a good in with, like Hexacon and such.
Oh yeah, the little cons were good, but the little cons are getting bought up, and that's my big concern. You know,
but it's, I mean, hopefully it's good for the people who created the con. If they're getting bought up, then that means they're at least getting some money out of their investment.
Yeah. I am sure that if IndieCate ever got to that point, we would definitely get at least some of the money we've put into it back.
Mm-hmm.
which is none.
Mm-hmm. So Tacticon, we won't be at because we'll all be at NDK since they're both Labor Day weekend. But and fly away. And we NDK game related stuff. I'm in talks with someone who runs a D&D Adventurers League. So they're talking about coming in and running some Adventurers League stuff in the board game room for me, which is pretty cool because I know that's got a following. Because you can, it's
Japanese version. I mean, D&D normal would be fine, but is there a D&D Japanese version which could be fun?
There's a couple of ones that fall into that type of thing. That non-typical Faerun stuff. It's not straight up Japan, but it's modeled after it, and there's like anime-esque D&D stuff, which I'm guessing is kind of modeled after the those who hunt elves or those kind of ones. Star Wars Legion tournament. Yeah, if I were to go to that, I would lose so fast since I don't know the rules.
Oh, I'm going robotic again, just so you guys all know.
Yeah, we noticed.
Oh, we noticed.
Yep. But Brent, I did get the starter. I did get the starter set for the Clone Wars one because one of my kids really likes the droids, and another one of my kids really likes General Grievous's design. So I'm hoping I can convince them into playing the game. So
sounds like a thing.
Star Wars Legion, because I also know once I get it up and going, since your kiddo is really into Star Wars, he would probably have some interest in it too.
I wouldn't mind playing Legion. I want to kind of. I mean, it's minis.
You're into the spaceship aspect more than the little dudes running around.
Yeah, minis would be fun too. I mean, it's minis. I'm always into minis, and I think that the whole concept of that is like, that's tactical board game. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so it's like, see, you're still on the table with minis.
Yeah, you're still moving guys around, measuring stuff, and rolling dice. And
yeah. I could be into that. I'd totally be into that. I mean, yeah, I'm into spaceships, obviously, but tactical board games are cool. Like, I prefer those over regular board games, I guess, if you were to actually get into it. I'd rather play that than, say, Risk, because that's cool. More of a potential of a story. As it is with me, as always, it's always about the ability to make a story.
There's a scene in a British comedy I really like called Red Dwarf where Rimmer, one of the characters, is going into this like really heartfelt and intense story about, so there I was with only 5 men left in Japan and I rolled 2 6s, and then he remembered all the dice rolls of the combat and he's telling it like a story. So the story of Risk. And of course everybody's utterly bored listening to him tell the story.
It is Red Dwarf.
It is Red Dwarf. But I have to remember that when I start going into D&D or role-playing war stories, I have to double-check on my brain. Is this person someone who can relate to role-playing war stories? Right. Or am I being that nerd?
Right.
So,
we've got a war story from last week's game. Boy, do we ever now. That was a good game.
We have a goofy scene story, I think.
I like that scene. That was a great scene.
It was the comedy relief of the situation. And I can't say anybody in the group organized it. Yeah, that guy. All right. We got our thing covered. We got NDK. Yeah, if you want to come do some Star Wars Legion stuff and teach people how to play, we will talk outside of the show, Brent, so I can find out what days, times you want to cover and get you a pass for that day. So, yeah, and get it in the program book so people know, oh, I want to learn how to play Star Wars Legion. I should be in the board game room from blah, blah, blah on that day.
Yeah, but Brent, you have to tape little teeny samurai helmet things in the front of all the stormtroopers.
Because there's no Star Wars in Japan.
Nope. Star Wars Visions, not a thing.
Oh, we should show that though, shouldn't we? That would be cool.
It's if you can get the rights and do it in the anime room. That's not my division.
Yeah, that would be pretty kick butt.
Oh, well. We hit some serious topics and then we talked about some stupid stuff. So I think we covered all the bases. We need to get
guys going again.
Yeah, we need to get Alex specifically. We need to write some of these alcohol companies that you're drinking and see if they would like to sponsor us and like send a bottle of whatever, and we can try it out on our show for them. And, yeah, it occurred to me because the one podcast I listened to kept trying to get a vodka company that because they were constantly drinking the vodka on stage where they were performing and recording the podcast, and like we talk about this so much, we keep hoping that they'll sponsor us, but they never do. But this other vodka company heard us doing it, and they jumped in and started
Oh,
sending us
snap.
vodka. So I thought that was pretty funny. And now
That's
that we're a
pretty funny.
nighttime show, we can do that. Because I always thought we should have a show called Geek Tanked.
I thought that was what we were doing. I'm on like my third drink.
I had a coffee. No
I can't drink
booze.
coffee.
Yeah,
Well, I can, but coffee don't like
you
me.
don't want to.
I love coffee.
Oh.
Coffee don't love me.
Don't love you.
I still drink coffee twice a year.
Whether
When's that?
you like it or not.
No, because if I have to space my coffee drinking about 6 months apart, or else the coffee monkey tries to climb back on my back. About once every 6 months, I'm gonna have coffee and be like, this tastes so good, and I'm gonna pay for it, but don't have to worry about the addiction aspects. In fact, I'm coming up on maybe some coffee next month. Yeah, buddy.
I indulge like crazy in the coffee and the coffee ice cream.
Oh, I hear you, man. I used to drink coffee. I used to tons of coffee every day.
Yep. Well, let's see. Next Monday should be a regular show, as far as I know, because I will be back in position, and then the Monday after that, though, I will be broadcasting remotely.
Ooh, unlike your non-remoteness.
Yeah, we're live now, right? In
We're
your
live.
room.
We're in the same room.
Right. The podcast is coming from the house.
I could look at. I see there's guys right over there. There's Troy right over there. Totally.
Joker's on the left. Here I am stuck in the middle with you.
Middle with you.
Yeah.
Bum, bum, bum. I have both ears though.
Yeah, mine are protected too. No ear slicing here.
Yeah, cool. Well, that works. As far as I know, I'm still here, but my summer has gotten turned upside down, so we'll have to see what happens. My sister's cat got ringworm, and so we are waiting for the cycle of that to go through so that we don't get ringworm here with George and Dove, because that would suck. So she's gonna wait until the cycle is done and then come up here instead of us going down there. So originally we were going to be gone. I was going to be gone for like a week or two while I went to San Antonio. However, we're also hitting like one of the hottest summers on record, so probably a good idea to not go to Texas.
Yeah,
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, Tara was suggesting that I
not, in fact, be in Texas.
Tara was suggesting that I change my yearly trip to Kentucky from a summer thing to the fall break thing.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I can't argue with that. Yeah, and gas prices are nuts. So I've got a lot of things going against me for taking a trip across country in a car.
Yeah, the Starbucks putting in level 2 chargers at all their Starbucks is taking too long.
Yep.
Because when they get to that stage, I'm not driving gas cars anymore. We'll just take the electric down there.
Take a hand crank and some solar panels.
Right, there you go. Yeah.
All right.
Pedal. Whoever's in the passenger seat pedals. So
well, cool. Well, thank you, Brent, for joining our show, and for anybody who's watching this post recording, thank you for watching it and taking the time for that.
Yep.
And,
and we will see you again next week. But that's all the time that we have for today. So until then, are you ready, Troy?
Nope.
Get ready. Until then, okay. I've been Guy.
I've been Troy.
And I've been Alex.
And this is Geek Tank.
Bye.